Development of The Coffin of Andy and Leyley, one of the edgiest and most controversial indie games of recent years, is officially paused for an unknown amount of time. Due to this, now feels like the perfect time to take a look at everything that's happened so far, and of course figure out when and how the next episode was expected to be released before the suspension. It all began in 2023 when indie developer Nemlei first released a demo, followed by the relatively short first episode. The Coffin established the main characters and the setting, and hinted at Andy and Ashley's disturbing backstory. Naturally, the game quickly gained popularity and began building a fandom around itself. Popular YouTubers started making videos about it, and the community had already developed its own inside memes. By the way, if you don't feel like revisiting the earlier events, or you already remember everything, you can jump to this time code to skip straight to the latest development updates that came out very recently. Then, in October 2023, the game launched onto Steam's Early Access alongside both Episodes 1 and 2. The Coffin became significantly longer and much more ambitious. The second chapter, Graves, continued exploring the satanic cult and featured even more flashbacks. It also finally introduced Andy and Ashley's parents, further emphasizing just how toxic the siblings' relationship actually was. Episode 2 also included the first major player choices. They would later affect the events of the following chapter. However, this was also the moment when the Coffin experienced its biggest turning point. The reason was that Episode 2 contained a scene hinting at romantic feelings between Andy and Ashley, even though players didn't yet know the context behind the scene. Something Nemlei only explained much later. Many people immediately took issue with the inclusion of incest. Up until then, a lot of players had simply viewed the game as a dark, edgy horror title, so they weren't prepared for those implications. Heated arguments quickly broke out, followed by widespread accusations that Nemlei was romanticizing incest. Unable to handle the harassment any longer, Nemlei decided in November to transfer the publishing rights to Kit 9 Studio. From that point on, the publisher took over the business side of things. Meanwhile, Nemlei almost completely disappeared from the internet, quietly continuing development away from the spotlight. On the bright side, the whole situation triggered what is commonly known as the Streisand effect, causing the Coffin sales to skyrocket. Since then, the only way Nemlei has communicated with fans has been through Steam development blogs. That's where we'll later learn about the game's current status. Talking about the whole situation, it's weird even after all this time. Many people presumably haven't ever played the game and just saw some screenshots. They didn't know the context, and yet they were attacking Nemlei. And of course, other things such as, cannibalism and Satanism didn't bother them at all. Yeah. Anyway, the controversy was followed by roughly 6 months of silence. It finally came to an end in May 2024 with a new development log. Nemlei explained that the game had grown so much that the original 3-chapter plan was no longer enough. As a result, they decided to expand the story with an additional episode. Thus, Episode 3 was split into 2 separate routes, Decay and Burial. Obviously, this significantly extended the development timeline. Over the following year, Nemlei mostly shared screenshots, small progress updates, and occasional Q&A sessions. During that time, they twice asked fans whether they should release the first half of Episode 3 separately or wait until both routes were finished. Back in October 2024, the community voted to wait for the complete chapter with both routes included. But by the spring of 2025, after a pretty long wait, public opinion had shifted. This time, the majority voted in favor of releasing the first half as soon as it was ready. So, on April 1st, 2025, The Coffin received Episode 3A. As mentioned before, it only contained one of the 2 routes, Decay. But that didn't make the episode any shorter. In fact, Chapter 3 ended up being even longer than the previous one, making it the biggest update in the game's history. Episode 3A featured even more interactions with the demon that the siblings had met earlier. It also introduced an entirely new demon realm for players to explore. And naturally, there was no shortage of bloodshed and further explanation of Andy and Ashley's relationship. Most interestingly, however, the release of Episode 3 reignited the old controversies across social media. In several bad endings, Andy and Ashley indeed entered into a romantic and sexual relationship. This time, though, the discussions never reached the same scale as before, and fortunately, they didn't escalate into another harassment campaign or attempted cancellation. Now we have the most recent stage of development. Immediately after Episode 3A launched, Nemlei spent about a month releasing small patches and fixing bugs. Later, they published a post reflecting on the episode's release. They promised to work on a chapter selection feature, mentioned that hints had been added to several difficult puzzles, and of course, thanked everyone for the positive reception. In early June, Nemlei also addressed a lack of teasers and development updates. Since the story had reached some crucial moments, even small previews could reveal too much and spoil Episode 3B and Episode 4. Then, towards the end of 2025, the developer shared several new screenshots along with a year-end summary. They explained that rendering and testing were steadily progressing every single day. After that, Nemlei went completely silent until April 2026. That's when they returned with a large batch of screenshots, featuring the siblings, their mother, and a cultist. Besides this, there was a 2-minute gameplay video called Makeup, taken from the burial route. In the clip, Andy gets mad because Ashley decided to wear lipstick. The post also included an important development update. According to Nemlei, every route was being developed simultaneously, and whichever one is completed first will become the next major update. As of writing that log, that was expected to be Episode 3B, Burial. And finally, we have reached the latest and the most important update, released on July 1st of this year. Unfortunately, the lengthy development post announced that work on the game has been temporarily paused. It happened due to complicated legal issues. Quote, "Unfortunately, juggling creation and protection of my work simultaneously gets increasingly complicated as the amount of bad actors in the fandom grows. We will encourage fan content by creating guidelines on using our IP, but it will also mean that our lawyers will enforce more carefully against bad actors who go outside of the permitted boundaries. The guidelines will be published once ready. I'm sorry for the delay and that this isn't the release date announcement that was promised. We can't afford to not address the situation, as these activities are getting more and more brazen and openly hostile." Despite the disappointing news, the post also included several new screenshots featuring the siblings, the demon realm, and a character named Wren. And again, there was another brand new 3-minute gameplay video titled Cataract. In it, we play as Renee, Andy and Ashley's mother. During the scene, we are introduced to Wren, who appears to be the child of the main characters. Returning to the post itself, Nemlei also expressed interest in organizing a game jam. They said that they would like to make an event where fans could showcase games inspired by the Coffin. A survey was published to gauge community interest, but for now, it's still unclear whether such a thing will actually happen or what form it might take. And, well, that's everything we know for now. At the moment, as far as we're aware, development on the Coffin is still on hold. That's incredibly frustrating, I must say. We've been waiting for something new for an entire year at this point, and now we don't even know when the development will resume at all. Sadly, bad actors continue to appear within the fandom, causing problems not only for Nemlei, but also for ordinary fans. I hope both the developer and Kit9 Studio will resolve the situation in the best way possible. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and subscribe to my channel for more. By the way, if you are a fan of the Coffin, you should definitely check out my complete iceberg breakdown, which I made a few months ago. I'm sure it will entertain you. See you later! Bye!